So with the NBA Summer League tipping off in Las Vegas in less than a week, we've already seen some of the top rookies in the 2026 NBA draft class make their Summer League debuts in the California Classic or the Salt Lake City Summer League, including Darryn Peterson, Cameron Boozer, and Darius Acuff Jr. So in today's video, I wanted to break down some of the rookies who are already dominating the Summer League, so let's jump into it. And I gotta start with the number 2 overall pick in the 2026 NBA draft, Darryn Peterson, and his debut might have been the best of any rookie we've seen so far because he looked like a star almost immediately for the Jazz. Right away, Utah gave him the ball, and he showed why he went number 2 in this draft. The first thing that stood out to me was how easy the game looked for him. He was getting to his spots, changing speeds, rising into his jumpers, and attacking the rim without looking rushed. He finished with 28 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks, while shooting 11 for 21 from the field and 4 for 7 from beyond the arc. And the shot making he showed was real. He was hitting floaters, push shots, pull-up jumpers, catch-and-shoot threes, and even a go-ahead 3 in overtime. But what really matters for Utah is the way that he fits their future. This is a roster that needed a true engine on the offensive end, and Peterson showed he can be that guy. He has the size, the confidence, and enough tools on the defensive ends to not just be a one-way guard. My only concern was the 8 turnovers that he had, but for a first Summer League game, you live with that because the upside he displayed was obvious. And then for Atlanta, they had 3 rookies making their debut, but obviously the main focus was top 10 pick Kingston Flemings. And even though the shooting numbers were rough for Flemings, I actually thought this was a really encouraging debut for him. He finished with 14 points, 9 assists, 4 steals, and only 1 turnover on the game. And I think that matters way more than the 4 for 16 shooting that he had, because when a young guard is struggling to score, you want to see whether he can still impact the game, and Flemings absolutely did that. He controlled the pace, he got his teammates involved, defended the ball well, also created turnovers, and kept Atlanta in the game late, and the shot will definitely come around, and he already showed touch from 3 though, going 2 for 5 from deep. But the bigger takeaway is that Atlanta may have found a real table setter there at their point guard position, as he plays fast, but he does not play out of control. Then you also have Zuby Ejiofor, who made his debut, and he also deserves love. He had 8 points, 11 rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds, and 3 steals, which is just winning basketball, and showed why he went in the first round. He brought energy, physicality, and defensive activity to the game. And then Henri Veesaar, who they drafted late in the second round, definitely had a quieter debut with 5 points and 3 rebounds, but I still think it showed some promise. And for Atlanta's team as a whole, I think Flemings and Zuby were 2 of the players who really popped to me. And then next we got Cameron Boozer, who had another great debut. He was physical, very efficient, and just looked like a very smart basketball player, and it came in a complete blowout win for the Memphis Grizzlies. Boozer finished with 15 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in just 24 minutes while being efficient and shooting 7 for 11 from the field, and that is exactly the kind of debut you want from the number 3 overall pick. And what stood out to me was not the amount that he scored, but it was the way that he scored. Boozer already looks comfortable playing through contact, catching the ball in traffic, making the quick reads, and using his strength to create angles. And on the opening possession, he finished with a strong dunk over Aday, who's 7'3", and that set the tone for the entire game. And the fit with Memphis just makes a ton of sense for me. This franchise has always valued toughness, feel, and players who can make the right play without needing everything called for them, and Boozer brings that, and he showed that in his first Summer League game, as he showed he could score inside, pass out of actions, handle the ball enough to attack mismatches, and just keep the offense moving. And he looked like a ready-made NBA forward and the future star of the Memphis Grizzlies. And on the other side of the ball, we had Oklahoma City, and although they got blown out, I still think Aday and Bennett Stirtz both had flashes in their debuts. Mara finished with 10 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 blocks while shooting 5 for 8 from the field. And the box score is solid, but the real story to me is the skill set that he showed. At his size, Mara's passing touch is what makes him super interesting, as he can see all over the floor, make reads from the post, hit cutters, and just gives Oklahoma City another frontcourt player who can process the game, and we saw glimpses of that throughout this game against the Grizzlies. He also showed touch around the rim and some real rim protection. The concerns, though, were pretty clear. He looked a little heavy-footed in space. He definitely got tired and still needs more strength to hold his spots, but I think overall the foundation he showed was really good. Then we have Bennett Stirtz, who also had 10 points along with 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals, and his feel as an initiator really showed up. He looked comfortable in the pick and roll, made quick decisions on the ball, and defended with activity. The strength and one-on-one creation definitely still needs some work, but you can see why Oklahoma City wanted another smart guard who can pass, shoot, and keep the ball moving, and his deep shooting range really stood out to me in this game against the Grizzlies. But maybe the best debut of any rookie so far has been Yaxel Lendeborg for the Golden State Warriors, as it was perfect, and I mean that. He finished with 19 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block, while shooting 6 for 6 from the field and 4 for 4 from beyond the arc. And for a rookie entering the Golden State system, that is about the best possible way that his debut could have gone. The biggest takeaway for me is his shooting. Coming into the NBA, the question for Lendeborg was not whether he could impact winning, as we already knew he rebounds, passes, defends, and plays with energy on a nightly basis, but his biggest swing skill was his jumper. So for him to come out and immediately go 4 for 4 from deep is a big deal. Golden State needs forwards who can space the floor, make quick reads, and not freeze when the ball swings to them, and Lendeborg checked every single box that you could have for him in his debut. The passing also stood out. 6 assists from a forward in his first summer league game tells you that he's not just a spot-up type of player, but he can impact the game and get his teammates involved. He also showed he can short roll, attack closeouts, and just make the extra pass, and the fit already looks really natural for Lendeborg in Golden State. But going up against Yaxel was Cameron Carr from the Los Angeles Lakers, and he was one of the bright spots for the Lakers, even in that big loss that they took. He finished with 19 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, and had 0 turnovers while shooting 7 for 15 from the field and 5 for 11 from 3. And that is the exact kind of debut I think Lakers fans should be excited about, because his role at the NBA level is extremely easy to picture around Luka Doncic. Carr doesn't need to dominate the ball to be effective for the Lakers. He showed he can space the floor, move without the ball, attack closeouts, and punish defenses when they overhelp. And I think that's going to matter a lot next to Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves there, because both of those guys are going to bend the defense and create open looks for their teammates. And Carr's job will be to be ready, shoot with confidence, and give the Lakers more athleticism on the wing. And what I liked most from him in his debut against the Warriors was how calm he looked. Nothing felt rushed. His shot prep was smooth, his passing was simple, and he didn't force the game either. And for the 24th pick in the draft, I think this looks like one of the biggest steals that we could have. And then we have the Sacramento Kings, and their top 10 pick was Darius Acuff Jr., and although his debut wasn't perfect, I still think it was exciting. He finished with 25 points, 4 assists, and 2 rebounds in Sacramento's comeback win over Brooklyn, but his efficiency was definitely rough. He shot 9 for 29 from the field and just 1 for 9 from deep. But with Acuff, I think you have to look deeper than the percentages, because the flashes from this game were the whole point. He got downhill, he put pressure on the rim constantly, he also created shots off the bounce, and even on a night where the jumper wasn't falling, he still made the winning play by setting up Neat Clifford for the go-ahead 3 late, and I think that matters. Sacramento drafted him because he has real offensive engine upside, and you saw that, and if this is the worst game that we see from Acuff, the sky is the limit. But another Kings rookie I want to give a shout out to is Emanuel Sharp, because I think he also had a very strong debut with 13 points and 2 steals for the Kings. And he showed me that he's more than just a shooter. His defensive activity really stood out as he constantly pressured the ball. It was just a nightmare for his opponents. And I think he could be another steal from this draft and could be one of the few second rounders that we see on a nightly basis playing in the NBA. But another second rounder that stood out to me was Ryan Conwell from the Miami Heat, and I think his debut was one of the more interesting ones because it definitely started slow from his shooting perspective, but he kept playing. He ended up finishing with 21 points to lead all scorers in the game, 3 rebounds and 3 assists in an 88-87 win over San Antonio. And although he wasn't necessarily efficient as he shot just 4 for 12 from the field, he was also 3 for 7 from 3 and 4 for 4 from the free throw line, and the shooting is the obvious biggest selling point with Conwell. He showed he has deep range, confidence, and the ability to score off movement. You also saw him work off handoffs, relocate, pull up off the dribble, and create space with step backs, and I think that is going to be valuable for Miami, especially with them needing more bench scoring and more guards who can create offense without needing a ton of touches now that Giannis Antetokounmpo is in that lineup. And although his efficiency inside the arc wasn't great, I think his process was encouraging. He didn't disappear after missing shots. He kept applying pressure and found ways to be effective and get to the free throw line. And for a second round pick, I think that is a really strong sign. And Conwell looks to me like a player who could eventually give Miami instant offense and shooting gravity off the bench and be a real shot maker in their second unit. And finally, I want to talk about the trio of rookies we saw from the San Antonio Spurs because all three of them hit double figures and each one showed something different to me. First up, we had Tarris Jr. who finished with 10 points, 7 rebounds, and a block in the game against the Heat. And the efficiency wasn't great at just 3 for 10 from the field, but he still looked like a physical interior presence. He rebounded the ball well, challenged shots, and gave the Spurs a pick and roll target. And if he can become more efficient around the basket, I think there's a real path for him being the backup center there in San Antonio. But the rookie maybe I'm most excited about is Maliq Brown, and I think his debut was very clean. He finished with 10 points, 3 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 block while shooting 4 for 7 from the field and 2 for 4 from the three-point line. And I think that three-point shooting was huge for me because that was not something he was known for being there at Duke. And the production he showed in this game was what they loved there in San Antonio from their two-way forwards. As he defended, he spaced the floor, and just made these simple plays. And he's one of the guys I think could have a long NBA career. And then finally, you have Jacoby Gillespie there in the backcourt, and he finished with 10 points, 8 assists, 3 steals, and only had 1 turnover. And although his shooting wasn't perfect as he was really inefficient, I think the playmaking flashes, especially with those 8 assists, were real as he controlled the pace, he made the right reads time and time again, and looked comfortable running the offense. And that's something the San Antonio Spurs are going to be looking for there off the bench in their backcourt. And overall, I was just really encouraged with what I saw from the San Antonio Spurs rookies. But that wraps it up for this one. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought from the rookies' debuts in the Summer League there in the California Classic and the Salt Lake City Summer League. Also, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.